Okay, so I thought I'd do a little bit of checking and share with you guys my new lens. It's the 50mm 1.4 Sigma Art. It's got a big A on it, so I guess that's what that means. Autofocus, manual focus, 77mm thread on the front there. It's got amazing reviews from everything that I've seen online so far. I traded in my Samyang T1.5 cine lens, 50mm. Sent that back just because it just really wasn't as sharp as my cheapest chips Canon old 1.8 50mm, and that's only like a £60 lens, if that these days. And got this one instead. So it's not a cine lens. It does obviously have a manual focus ring, so I can stick my my gear on there and use it on a follow focus, which I'm going to test out in a little bit. I've already used it. We went away for the weekend and just had a bunch of fun on a boat on the Norfolk Broads, and this thing came in really useful on my Sony A7S. In low light, it's just really soaks up every photon. It's just fantastic in low light with the 1.4. Razor sharp from the little bit of testing that I've done so far. So it's very solid, very sort of, if we compare it to something like, have the Canon 70-200 here, and in terms of like feel and quality, I would say that the focus ring and the zoom ring on the Canon feels slightly higher quality than this, but very little in it. They feel like that, they both feel like high quality products. That's a £1,600 lens. Compare it to something like the £1,000 Nocticron here. I would say this has actually got a slight bit of sort of rattle in it. Okay, I'm guessing that's the IS in there moving around. This thing just feels absolutely solid. It's very pretty, very heavy, much the heaviest 50mm I've ever come across. I mean, I know this is a cheap lens, but this thing basically feels like it's made out of balsa wood. This thing feels like it's made out of lead. This is much heavier lens. So yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. Let me get the focus up. See how close we can get the focus. I think you've got a full-time manual. You can obviously put it into autofocus, but then change focus regardless, whether it's an autofocus or not, just by adjusting the ring there. I also want to do a test to make sure that these numbers equate to real world lengths. I'll stick it on my GH4 with the XL speedbooster. I'll pop it on here and do a little bit of testing. What I found with some of the, let me just change focus again. What I found with some of the cheaper lenses, these numbers just don't mean anything. It's actually quite nice when I use my Canon 24-105 on my 70-200, and these numbers do actually work. I can set it to infinity on the line, and I know that infinity's in focus, and I'm presuming this is a much higher quality lens. This is going to be the same. Whereas lots of my cheaper lenses, these numbers just don't mean anything. They're so far out, they're just like a joke. The may as well not be there. And it's not like you're always looking to this, but every now and again, it's nice to know that these are accurate. So I'll pop it on my GH4 and do a little bit of side by side. These are my most comparable lenses. We've got a £1,000 lens here, a £600 lens here, and like a £60 lens here. All very different. But there's kind of comparable in focal length, and we've got a very high quality expensive one here, £1,000, and then we've got sort of the budget nifty 50 here. So it's interesting just to see where this one sits in that spread. So anyway, let's crack on with that, and I'll show you the results. Okay, so here's a few comparisons for you. These are all taken on my Panasonic GH4 with the Metabones speedbooster. Obviously, if you're going to really pixel peep at this lens, then a Canon body would be better. But I'm going to be mostly using this for video on my GH4 and my A7S. So that's what I've got to hand. So here's a shot wide open. I was focusing on the little plus signs on the color chart there. So if we zoom into 100%, then we'll zoom into 200%, have a real good old look-see. As you can see, this is wide open and that looks pretty damn sharp. Let's just zoom back out a minute. Now let's have a quick look at F2. If I just flick between F2 and F1.4 here briefly, as you can see there's a little bit of vignetting wide open and it starts to go away at F2 and then it's pretty much completely gone at F4. But that gives you an idea of the level of vignetting. It is there, but completely comparable to other sort of similar high quality lenses, with that wide an aperture, in my opinion. Okay, so that gives you an idea of that. Now let's have a look at sharpness at F2 compared to F1 zoomed in now. Just flick between those a couple of times for you. So as you can see, it's slightly sharper at F2 than at wide open, but it's still very sharp wide open, so nothing to worry about, especially for video purposes. Maybe a super high res, high megapixel camera. You may want to stop down a little bit if you want maximum sharpness, but in my opinion, it's still really good wide open. Now let's do some couple of side by side. So here we have the Sigma on the left, and then this is just my cheap Canon 51.8 on the right there. Obviously that's not an expensive lens, but it's still very, very sharp for the money, I reckon. And as you can see, it's a full kind of, that's 1.4 and that's 1.8, and it's either on a par or sharper. And remember, it is a wider f-stop there. Now let's compare it to my Canon 24-105. It's an aging lens, it's an old lens now, but it's still a really good variable focal length lens from Canon. That's an f4, but the speed booster opens out to a 2.5, so it's still very useful, and it has IS as well, so it's a very, very good lens. But I would say again that's really comparable. Remember, these are all at 200%, so we're kind of really peaking at any potential problems. Now let's have a little look at the Canon 70-200 at 70mm. Obviously this is a tighter focal length than the 50, but it's my most expensive lens. It's like £1,600 lens, so it's well worth comparing it. And again, it's not a prime, it's a variable, but it's still a very, very high quality lens. So if it can compete with that, then it's doing a blinding job. And for my money, again, that's completely on par. And let's now have a look at the Nocticron. So it's a native lens, so we don't have the speed booster getting involved with this, and this is a very highly regarded and very expensive piece of glass. And for my money, they're again completely comparable sharpness wise, and also comparable in terms of vignetting as well. They're quite comparable. So there you go. That gives you an idea of side by side between some of my other kind of similar lenses. I can only compare what I've got, and yeah, it's very much holding up really, really well. Definitely no problems there. So let's have a little look at the sort of out of focus area. So this is just for my lenses. So the Sigma's top left there. If you have a look at the out of focus area in the background, it's really smooth, it's really creamy, no problems at all. You can see the slight colour shift coming out of the Sigma, because it is a very wide open at 1.4. Remember, that's on a speed booster, which is, I think it's turning it into like a 0.95. It's not even a 1. I'm not very good at doing the maths on that one, but it's super wide with the speed booster. Top right is the Canon 50, so that's the cheap Canon 50, about £50, £60. And that's where you're starting to show the issues in terms of a cheaper lens. The out of focus area is a bit kind of harsh looking, a bit sort of scratchy looking compared to the more expensive lenses. Bottom left is that very expensive 70-200, the Mark II 2.8, and again different focal length, so it's hard to judge incredibly well. I would actually say that the Sigma has a smoother out of focus area than that, which is my most expensive lens. So you can't complain about that. And then the Nocticron, the 42.5mm native, that has, I would say, quite comparable out of focus. They're both very, very creamy looking and smooth. And like I say, that's a sort of £1,000 lens. So this is I paid about £600 for the Sigma. So it's it's almost half the money, not quite, and it's outperforming it in terms of light gathering, and it's just as sharp, and the out-focus area looks just as nice. So yeah, that Sigma's doing an absolutely blinding job. So there you go. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of video, just handheld, just going to shoot around the house. And get an idea of the nearest focus distance and also the autofocus speed. So let's crack on with that.
Okay, so this is with the aperture wide open. I'm not using an ND, so we've got some bright sunlight coming in. So we've got the shutter speed at a rather unflattering 1600, but that's fine just for this testing. So first of all, I just want to test the autofocus on the Metabones XL on the GH4. So let's see how we go. So I'm going to press the button now. And yeah, that's not too bad. That's relatively quick. With the updated, just going to speed that shutter speed up a little bit more, get rid of those burnt out patches. Obviously no IS on this lens, and I'm hand holding it at the moment, so you can see that's the kind of result you're going to get with the Canon lenses. The IS is going to make a big difference. I'm just going to see now how close. I think the focal distance, the closest focal distance on this lens is much closer than most other comparable 50s. So there we go, that's as close as I can focus to Wilf's face there. It's just lower that shutter speed down a little bit, some bit more shadow now. Lovely narrow depth of field, as you can see off in the background there. We've just got absolutely blurry nothing. This is at 1.4 wide open. And then let's see if we can focus and pull back at the same time, which is always a bit of a knack. Just get my focus slightly sharper and speed up the shutter speed slightly. So there we go, that gives you an idea. Obviously with the subject at its closest, the background is completely blurred out. A more sort of reasonable sort of portrait, well that would be a tight portrait on a human face. You've still got very nice blurry out of focus area there in the background. So yeah, really digging how this works on the GH4 with the Metabones. Let's just test that focus again. So let's put focus to nearest, and I'm going to press the autofocus button now. Actually, I'll do it one more time. So that's now at its furthest, and I'm going to press it now. Slight bit of lag as it thinks about it, but totally doable. I'm not so sure how good it would do it, sort of continuous tracking, but just to get focus for a regular kind of photograph or shot, totally doable in my opinion. I would say it was comparable to the Canon lenses on the Metabones. So there you go. So that's our, let's try that again. That's our nearest focus. That's our out of focus sort of area in the background there. And try the autofocus one more time. There you go, that's what you're going to expect to get out of the autofocus on the GH4 with the XL updated, I updated it fairly recently, the firmware Metabones speedbooster. Let's now have a little go at focusing on something at the distance. I'm going to have to crank the shutter speed right out because I'm still wide open now, so I'm just doing that manually. I'm just going to check that off against, yeah, that seems to be bang on. I've now got on the display on top of the lens, I've set it to infinity on the line, and that seems bang on. I'm just going either side to see if I can get it a little bit sharper. But no, that seems pretty accurate. And I'm also going to check the distance, focal distance here. Let's lower that shutter speed down a bit. Obviously not ideal without an ND, but that's fine. So there we go, that's focused on Will's face, which is about half a metre away, and the lens is saying 0.7 meters. So I'd say it's possibly reading a little bit long, but that's also fine. It's saying it goes to 1.4 and then a bit of a turn under for nearest, so it's probably saying about 1.3 1.3 of a meter, and I'd say that was a little bit closer. It says about 20 centimeters, not 30 centimeters. So it actually focuses slightly closer than what the lens says. But either way, lovely results here. I'm having to, let's crank the aperture down to something a bit more reasonable, like 4, just for comparison's sake, and reacquire focus. So there we go, that's the kind of blurred out background your sort of F4 would get you. And let's also compare that to 1.8, which is what the, get my shutter speed, that's 1.8, so that's about what the Canon's capable of. And then see that difference that this can make. So there you go, there it is at 1.4. That's how much out of focus blur we're getting. So yeah, pretty good so far.
And just because I forgot to mention, there is a pretty nice little sort of padded bag that comes with it, and a lens hood. So yeah, just because I forgot to mention that. So in summary, yeah, really loving this lens. It's as sharp or sharper than any other lens I've got, and you can really shoot with it wide open and have no fear that you're getting kind of smeary sharp areas. It's slightly sharper at f2 and slightly sharper at 2.8 again, but at 1.4 it's still plenty sharp enough, even for 4K stuff. It's absolutely fine, and for your standard kind of photos, absolutely a bang on lens. It really is. And yeah, even the autofocus seems to be pretty fast, even through the Metabones on the GH4. I've got Canon bodies as well, but I all this generally is for video for me, so that's kind of what I'm interested in. And yeah, it's just very high quality. It's like I say, its downsides are it's pretty heavy and it's pretty big. But if that doesn't bother you, and you're not desperate for a cine style lens with a clickless aperture and all that kind of thing, and you're not desperate for IS, this is an amazing lens for the money. Really high quality, compared to some of my more expensive lenses. It's completely holding up, if not slightly beating them in terms of sharpness and image, and very creamy out of focus areas, your bokeh, whatever you want to call it, and tons of lights getting into it. So great low light lens as well. So yeah, thumbs up all round from me. And yeah, I'm very glad I sent that Rockinon stroke Samyang 50mm back and got this one instead. It was an extra couple of £100, but it's far superior in terms of image, and the actual glass that's in this is producing a really non-distorted, lovely, sharp image. So generally all good. So yeah, I'm very happy with it, and this will not be going back to the shop. This will be being attached to my camera a lot of the time. Definitely, certainly in low light situations on my A7S. This is going to be on my Sony camera at night times and in the evenings a lot, because it produces a really nice image and it just soaks up tons of light at that f1.4. So yeah, there you go, guys. That's my my summary. Really enjoying it, and I would definitely give this my recommendation if anyone's thinking about getting a new high quality 50mm. Okay, guys, thanks for listening. Peace out.